Good morning, listeners. We're back for another episode. I believe this is going to be our 20th episode.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yeah,
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes. So I was at a craft show today, putting Theron's on a limb woodworking, shameless plug, having his stuff out at this craft show. And somebody that the kids went to school, Josh went to school with, said that she listened to our first few episodes because she had just had a baby and, in the middle of the night, she was like, oh, I'll listen to their podcast. So
how did she find out about it?
Because I share it on Facebook.
Oh.
And so I just was like in awe again. Like I just stood there staring at her like, God, you are so good, because we just have no idea. And I'm having fun doing this. Some people are like, I can't believe you're doing a podcast. And yes, I have a lot to learn. And as we said, we're thinking about videoing, and someday that will come true, people. We keep saying it, but someday it will come true.
And now we have cool shirts to wear.
Yes. Thank you, Climber Customs, for making our shirts. That was awesome.
Yeah, they're very cute.
Yeah. We're going to take a picture. Today it rained, and so,
I'm not feeling today.
Yeah, not today.
My hair is not on point today.
Yeah, but at some point we'll take our picture in our shirts, and that will be our profile picture. So I'm excited for that.
Nice.
Yeah. So Trina, you are back from your first plane ride.
Oh, so much fun. So I had a couple of things to learn, even though a lot of people gave us advice. Jared had flown before, but it had been a while. And so first of all, I would do it again in a heartbeat, especially out of Dayton Airport. It was very clean, very small. It was a great place to start. So the first funny story, so I'll just run through them real quick. So the first funny story is we park in the parking garage, had not taken parking into consideration. It was extremely expensive. And we parked in a parking garage, and I'm like, well, let's just park close to the entrance, and then we'll hop on one of those shuttle things that are going around. Well, Dayton Airport does have the shuttles, and we stood outside of one of the places where you can stand out of the weather to wait for the shuttle, and we didn't see one, and we didn't see one. And I said, I'm just going to call the airport, get customer service, and say, when are these shuttles coming? And she said, well, where did you park? And I said, we parked in the parking garage. She said, well, there is no shuttle service because the airport is literally just across the sidewalk from the parking garage.
Oh my God.
Well, we parked on one end of the parking garage. On the opposite end of the parking garage, it literally is maybe 30 feet from the front doors of the airport. And she probably was laughing so hard, like, these lazy people have to have a shuttle. But so we ended up, instead of walking a straight line, like, what is that saying? What's the shortest distance from point A to point B? A straight line. Well, we didn't do a straight line. We went all the way around the square. Well, 3/4 of the way around the parking garage. And so we got in, and everybody warned us about TSA, but they were extremely friendly. In fact, they laughed with us and they smiled. Yeah. And one of the TSA people said, because I I have a problem with my filter, I almost said, I heard you guys were terrible, but really, you've been great. But I did not say that. So I told her how friendly they were, and and this is my first flight, like everybody I ran into. Hey, this is my first flight. And so she said, well, you picked a really good airport to fly out of. And I said, well, I'm glad that I did. It's been a great experience. Well, not so much for Jared, because I don't know why that's not. Oh, there you go. So
microphone issues again.
Yes. So we're going through the first TSA line. My thought when we left the house was, I need to drink a lot of water. I'm going to pack 4 water bottles and put them on the outside of Jared's suitcase. We each had a carry-on. His was a rolling carry-on, and mine was just a bag. And so I go through TSA first. Jared's right behind me. And he's glaring at me when he goes through that thing where you stand on the footprints and then that does like a scan of you. You put your arms up.
Yeah.
So he's glaring at me and I'm like, what's the problem? He goes, water bottles. And I'm like, oh, well, my thought was we're going to drink water bottles while we wait to get on the plane, but you have to go through TSA like as soon as you get in the door. Well, I didn't realize that. And he had 4 water bottles in his bag. And so he's like, seriously, you packed 4 water bottles in there? And I said, well, I wanted to drink them while we wait. And he said, well, I told the TSA lady, those are not my water bottles. Those are my wife's. And so he got held up. She's like, I have to dump these water bottles. And he said, there's 2 more on the other side. Because she only saw, and so the TSA lady was like, I think she's after you or she's out to get you or something like that. So anyway, that was the first episode. We get on the flight. But while we're waiting on the flight, we met up with another machine gunner from the Marines, which was very ironic since that's what Eli's job is. And then this young mom with 2 little kids, the one girl was 3 or 4, and then she had like a 1.5-year-old. And so it instantly reminded me of Lauren with Aubrey and Avery. And the little 3 or 4-year-old, I was making conversation with her and I had to use the restroom. So I'm like, okay, Jared, I'll be right back. I stand up and she is loud, like at the top of her lungs, sit back down, this little 3-year-old. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Should I listen to her? I mean, she's pretty aggressive and has quite an authoritative voice. And, but I didn't. I said, oh, I'll be right back. And she was just, so we made friends, like real quick. So then we get on the plane. Flawless flight. Then we went to Dallas, Fort Worth, which is not the same size as Dayton.
Oh, no.
It was huge. And we are walking and I'm like, okay, we're at Terminal B, but we need to get to, say, C. And so we start walking and I'm like, these numbers keep going up, but the letters never change. I feel like we should stop and ask somebody at the information desk. Here, we had to get on the Skylink thing, which, if you don't know, is a super fast train.
Yes.
That's way more exciting than the airplane. So we follow her directions. She was super sweet. And we got on this train thing, which reminds me of what maybe they're not subway cars. What are they in like New York City? Is it a subway train?
Oh,
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. And so we hop on and everybody's holding on to these poles. And I'm like, there's no more poles to hang on to. We're already at the plane or in the train and the doors are starting to close, so we can't get off. And the automatic thing speaker says, please make sure you are holding on to something secure. And I'm like, Jared, you're the only secure thing I see here. So I'm holding on to Jared's shoulder. I'm literally in the middle of this train and Jared is holding on just to the wall. And I'm like, do not move. And so it like goes from 0 to 157, like in a millisecond. And so I'm like basketball stance. So I crouched down and these people probably thought I was a lunatic there. But anyway, and then it's making these really sharp turns and I'm like, I am going to fall over. And so, but we got there and actually I looked forward to it on our return home because I'm like, okay, this is going to be so much fun if I'm actually holding on to a pole. So, and I said, I wonder if these are actually manned by a person. They are not, like, because the second time we rode in the very front. And that's actually a little unnerving because you are way up high in the air and it's just zip, zip, zipping. So the only issue we had with our flights was the layovers. If I had it to do again, I would have a long layover versus 50-minute layover because both times we almost missed our connecting flight. So the first time they switched the flights. So we were supposed to be at one terminal and they switched us to another one, but they switched it while we were on the plane. Well, you don't get reception when you're on the plane. So Jared had stepped away for a second and I'm like, well, I'm just going to text everybody that we landed safely. And then I got the thing. I'm like, hey, in 10 minutes, we need to be halfway across the things. Hop on the Skylink again and off we go. And we were there for 5 minutes and they started boarding. The second time on our way home, we got off of the San Diego flight in Dallas and then we get to our terminal and there were like 6 people in front of us. They were loaded. That was the last of the boarding. Like we barely made it. So, and we didn't go to TMI, but we did not use the restroom from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
See, that's why you don't drink water.
Well, I was very thirsty. But so then the only other funny story is when we got to the San Diego airport to go home, which Ava did a great job shuttling us around because it's 45 minutes to the airport. And Jared is 2 people behind me, and I go through with no problem, and Jared's not coming. So I turn around and look for him, and he's glaring at me again. And with, I deserved it, I guess, because he's getting the wand up every crevices. Like, I'm like, really? That's so weird. Mind you, he has a quart size, if not a gallon size bag of pills in his prescription in his suitcase, but that's not what they were after. My sleep machine in his suitcase showed up black on the x-ray things, and it was suspicious. So they pulled him out of line. He had to get, what's that called? Frisked or whatever. Yeah. And they went through his bag and everything. And they're like, oh, it's the sleep machine. I'm like, not the pills that are sitting right beside. And he's just glaring at me. He said, it's not my sleep machine. It's my wife's. I said, the funny thing is I didn't even use that sleep machine on our trip. So, but those are the only funny stories. It was a good trip. The ocean is beautiful. California is beautiful. I'm already planning my next trip, which Eli and Ava don't know that yet. But I figure free lodging, So
for you, that's
yeah, nice. I enjoyed it a lot. I would definitely fly again. It was a good experience. Good.
Well, you make friends everywhere you go.
Well,
I'd still be sitting out there waiting for that shuttle.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. She's like, well, we don't offer shuttles since you're literally right beside us. Anyway, so it was all good. It was a good trip.
Good. Very good. And you had the gala?
Yes. So the Pregnancy Center Gala, I highly recommend it. Oh my goodness. That was worth every penny, which I didn't think was all that expensive to begin with because it was an awesome meal. Taylor did a great job with her story, phenomenal singing. I mean, yes, very good. There were 4 different stories that they told. I just can't say enough good stuff. And some things that I learned from there is they're starting a father's program. So the fathers need to be involved.
Hallelujah.
Yes, it's very much needed. So that is one of their goals for the upcoming year. And then the guy that emceed it, he was
very good.
Yes, very good. Threw out so many statistics that I could not remember them all, but really kept your attention. Like, we didn't leave until, oh boy, I don't even know what time, but it was just like I wanted to linger. I wanted to stay. And just
Did
so
you have
good.
a sponsored table? Is that how it works?
So I just signed up online to
This is
go
through the Bowling Green Pregnancy Center.
Thank you. Get ahead of myself. Yeah, I just signed up online and got our tickets. Now, we did sit with Taylor, but I think the director kind of orchestrated that because Taylor was a speaker. Otherwise, we could have just gotten a table of 8 and done it that way if we wanted to. So, and these are statistics from 2023 for Ohio. And I'm just going to round these numbers. So in 2023 in Ohio, it was recorded that there were 127,000 live births. And there were 136,000 deaths. So your death rate is higher than your live birth rate. However, there were 22,000 abortions that year. So really makes you think. And I came across something that said that the mothers, they need your support. They don't need your judgment or condemnation or criticism or whatever. And you really don't know what somebody's going through. the stories that they told, I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking of it, how God was in every single story, whether it was, after the fact for Taylor or it was beforehand for the last one, just all through it, every single story. It was wonderful.
So I want to explain one of those stories because it's just a God thing.
Oh.
The person who was part of starting this Bowling Green pregnancy center was traveling to Chicago, young man, not married, I believe, knew that God was calling him into the ministry. But on his way back from Chicago, he said, God just laid on his heart a burden for the unborn. And so when he got back, he gathered about 6 friends, I think it was, and they talked and they all decided that they were going to start a pregnancy center. I mean, they showed a newspaper clipping and everything. The next year, God called him to Dayton, Ohio, to continue his ministry there. And he said, but this is my baby. Like, I started this. I don't want to leave it. But he knew he left it in good hands. So it just, it flourished. So the last speaker, her mom was one of the first ones to come through the pregnancy center. She said probably got diapers, wipes, that kind of thing. And now this she's a young lady to me, she contemplated abortion, even knowing that her mom did not do that with her. When her mom found out she was pregnant in high school with her, this young lady was 19, and there were 3 things that God put in her path. One was her boyfriend's mom, who had had an abortion as a young person and regretted it. Shoot, now I can't remember.
The aunt she was living with.
The aunt she was living with because she was kicked out of her home, tough love, and nobody knew she was pregnant but the boyfriend at this time.
So she wasn't kicked out for being pregnant?
No.
This was a separate issue.
Yeah, she didn't want to obey her parents' rules, and so then she went to live with this aunt, and then she got pregnant right before high school graduation or somewhere, her senior year. Yeah.
But she graduated without people knowing it.
Yeah.
And the aunt had this little pin that had footprints on it. And so she put this in front of this young lady and said, aren't these just something? This is, I think, a 10-week-old baby.
Yes.
Like in utero. This is how the size of their footprints.
And she didn't know she was pregnant.
She didn't know she was pregnant. And then
the boyfriend said, no, you cannot have an abortion. You need to talk to my mom. She ended up talking to her mom. She had already been to the first
consult. Yes. Yep. Paid the money.
Yep.
To have the abortion.
Abortion.
Which distant relative gave her the money. Nobody else knew. And then she ended up telling her boyfriend, he said, no, the aunt came along with the pin from the doctor, or a doctor had made those pins. And then she agreed to talk with the boyfriend's mom, and the boyfriend's mom said, can we just go to the pregnancy center and have an ultrasound?
Oh, that's right.
And then the rest is history. Her daughter, who was 18 now, just happened to be there. So the daughter she had planned to abort happened to be there at this gala, and she's going into the Navy. So there was a very short window that daughter was even going to be home, and she got to share with it. And I think almost
the daughter was, I'm a little confused.
The now 18-year-old daughter
was planning on having an abortion?
No. Okay, let's back up. So let's say
she was going to be the aborted baby.
Oh, okay.
And she happened to be there.
Okay.
So
she got to hear her mom's story, how her mom chose her life over. Okay.
Yes. And I think if 3 out of 4, if not all 4 of the ladies that spoke, they are with the guy.
Yes, I think all 4 of them.
Yeah, they're with the
dad.
No, 3 of the 4.
3 of the 4?
Yes.
So the first one, she must not be with her. Okay, that makes sense. Yep. It's super, highly recommend.
And now she works for one of the original creators of this pregnancy center.
Oh,
It's
so
just-
full circle.
It is. It's just amazing how God works. Look for those threads, listeners. Look for those threads. He's everywhere.
Yes.
It's just, he's an amazing God. Amazing God.
Yes. And we also have had the Veterans Fair in Fostoria, and that went
Going
well.
back to the gala, I ate my dessert first. People were looking around, and I'm like, you only live once. Have the dessert first. So then there was a packet on the table, and so nobody is seeming to be in charge of our table, like having this packet out. So I open it, and they're like, are you in charge of it? I'm like, well, no, but what's in the packet? Well, it was, where you could fill out if you wanted to donate money, and also what you felt from the gala, like
A survey.
what worked. Yes, a survey. And so then at the end, somebody came up to our table to, gather everything from this packet. And Taylor's stepdad says, well, the lady who ate her dessert first and got in the packet, she must be in charge. I'm like,
she's always large and in charge, right? Like it is part of your being. It's a strong characteristic for you.
Was eat the dessert first.
And all I got out of it is you're in charge.
Okay, go on to the Veterans
So
Fair.
the Veterans Fair had twice the vendors, which is just like outreach for people, first responders and veterans, any resources they might need, and also just to show love on them of, the job that they do or have done, and just an appreciation for them. So yeah, it was very well.
Was that for Fostoria alone, or?
I mean, like anybody could have attended it, but we had it in Fostoria. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And yesterday, as Tim and I were in the car and we took a little day trip and, just thumbing through the radio, trying to get something. And this guy was talking, and I had to write this down quick. It's so good. And talking about God. And it says, if he is Lord at all, he is Lord of all.
Yes, that is very good. Very good. I heard on the radio down to Columbus that from Corrie ten Boom, which...
Oh, I've heard that name.
Yes. She had this phrase, is your prayer life your steering wheel or your spare tire? So are you just only calling on God when, something bad happens and you're like, please save me from this or bless me with this? Or is he really in charge? So that kind of goes along with what that was saying too. So is your prayer life your steering wheel or your spare tire?
Really good.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. Well, we thought we would talk about Mother's Day leading up to this next week. It will be Mother's Day on Sunday. And I feel like moms don't get enough praise. Maybe, they take on a lot and they're responsible for a lot. We all have said throughout these episodes how much that is the main part of our existence and our lives, is being
even with grown children.
Yes. There's nothing more satisfying and loving and heartbreaking
All at the
same time.
Agreed.
Sometimes within the same day. But, I look back on when we raised our kids together. They were, the same age, which is so great to have cousins, the same age. And we were all pregnant with our third. We have that.
And those girls are pretty close.
Yes,
those three
are.
They are. So, we were all pregnant at the
Yeah,
same
we were
time.
at Teresa's house with our stomachs turned sideways and against the shed, which
because it's
beautiful backdrop.
Yes.
Which is now the chicken coop.
Teresa due in August with Maddie, and I was due in November with Amanda, and then you were due in February with Lauren.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. And then they all got together in Hawaii for a weekend back in this past November. And
I'm glad they're close.
They are close, which reminds me, I don't know if Lauren's going to be like, Aunt Teresa, what are you sharing this for? But, so I had watched when they went to Hawaii, I had watched, hung out with Aubrey and Avery, and such adorable children.
They are cute.
So, I had to try to ingrain in them that Aunt Teresa is the favorite.
You only had a limited time.
I did. So I repeated it over and over and over. Lauren sends me this video this week. Oh, it just touched my heart. And it is Aubrey sitting in the back saying how Aunt Teresa is so great. I mean, like a random video. And Lauren, at the end, she's like, she's going to love that. And I'm like, I did love it. So cute. Of course, I saved it. I played it several times. And
that's so
just
sweet.
Touched them.
We pour life into each other. And that's why my communal living is at the
Well, I wish you would get on a roll with that. Like, let's make this happen.
God, like I'm waiting for him. I say to him, especially lately, because I'm running out of patience. And I'm just like, okay, God, we've got it all together. We can all help teach the little ones. Like I love history. Teresa can help with the chicken part. And Trina, you're so good at playing games with them and crafts. You have the patience of Mother Teresa.
Not this mother.
No. So, we can all just pour into them. And I feel like getting back to the Little House on the Prairie days, that's what God, if you listen to the Bible, read the Bible, that is what we're supposed to be doing, not, trying to live the American dream. I think he blesses us with that. I think he wants to give us the desires of our heart. That is biblical. Do you know the scripture?
I'll get back to you on
that. Yeah.
But, we chase this dream all the time of stuff. And I don't feel like I necessarily have ever been a materialistic person, but I have been comparatively to what God has for us. And so I am just learning more and more that it's like that Jeremy Camp song, Keep Me in the Moment.
Oh,
I just want what
song.
the Lord has and focus on him. And that's my priority,
Which we're reading about David in the Bible recap. It's about that time. And it was mentioned in the sermon today several times of not about David, but about what I'm about to say. Like if God's not going with you to whatever you're doing, a job change, whatever, then you don't want it. Like you don't want to go.
Yeah, because you don't have his protection and covering. Well,
Exactly.
not that you. I mean, I feel like he's always.
But you don't have what did Dr. Joe call it?
Permissive will.
As opposed to,
you don't have his, shoot, you did have a word for it. Well, his perfect will compared to his
permissive will, which I just heard today he got remarried.
Dr. Joe did?
Yeah.
Well, good for him.
Yeah. So anyway, side note, random things come up and I got to say it or I'll never remember to say it again. But how David asked God, which I just read it today, should I go fight the Philistines? And the one time God said yes, the next time he said no, you need to go around this way and go in the back way to get them. And David, that would be why David, after God's heart, because he wanted to know what God wanted from him. And every time David didn't seek God, it did not go well for him. So he learned.
Right.
Yeah. And I wonder how long he waited for that answer, before he took matters into his own hands.
Yeah.
What did he wait until, okay, I know that was from God. I would say few and far between have been the times that I knew without a doubt that was God speaking. I feel like most of the time in my life, it's like, well, this makes the most sense to me. Like this seems to be working out. So this must be God. So, which I know is dangerous, but,
right.
And I pray that will grow more specific and I'll be more obedient or know his voice more. Discern. Thank you. Yes. That's exactly the word I was looking for.
Well, this was going to be my thankful story, but this just plays in. God is awesome, listeners, my friends. He's awesome. So last week, we got the camper. You said that took away from our communal living.
I did. So instead of having an actual house, you guys are going to be stuck in the back 40 in a camper.
Well, you never know if land comes available. This is a resource. We
Oh,
can live
see,
out of.
it's all about the perspective. It really is.
Exactly. When I write the book, apples or oranges, the perspective, this is going to be in there.
Which
Anyhow.
Theron says you need a chapter about being nuts.
And personally, I like the cookie dough better than the apples or oranges. Because if I saw the title, never mind, go ahead.
Oh, and maybe that's what Theron was saying about, when you write a book about being the cookie dough, you need to write about putting in nuts in there. Okay.
Okay, well, he'll be the first added nutty brother. Okay, so I have a vehicle that is a 2012, just turned 199,000 miles. I don't want another vehicle. I don't want the payment. This was even before getting the camper. And now I don't know that I can do the payment. And, it's like an old glove. Like I know how it works and that. And it's been an awesome car, not much needing to be done on it.
So you got another 100,000.
Well, I'm thinking 250 is like.
Mine's at over 250.
Oh, well, the Nissan Altima was way over. So anyhow, when Trevor got his Chevy truck, it was like, well, I'm not going to get another car, so feel free. And then for several months, I'm like, if I was to get another car, because I really should be thinking about it, because I don't like getting a new car. It's a lot of work to figure out what is a good car, a good brand, reliable. And I said, I really like this Traverse. There's a lot of Traverse cars out there, and I would like a white one. So he, unbeknownst to me, went and told his Chevy dealer,
Chevy Trevor.
Yeah, to be on the lookout. And so I wanted white, all this. Well, there was one that came up last week, and it was black. Not leather, cloth seats, but heated. I'm like, well, that's good, because in the summer, then I won't stick to the seats. I'm like, black, I don't want the black. Well, let's just go look at it and see how it drives. And, all the while, because this was in the next day, I'm praying continually, God, is this what we should be doing? I'm not sure. Because sometimes when I tell people that I pray for these things, I just kind of get this look, and I'm not sure if they're like, you pray for this? Well, yes, we should lay everything at his feet.
Absolutely.
Yes,
agree.
just like you were saying, we want the best of what God has for us. And is it the right decision? And so we drove it around, and I'm like, oh, this feels nice. It rides nice. Okay, let's go back and talk numbers. We were gone for maybe 20 minutes or so. We were 3 minutes away from pulling into the car dealer, and Trevor gets a call from the Chevy dealer, and I'm like, that's odd. Unbeknownst to the salesperson, the manager's son wanted this car. It had come in on like a weekend, and he didn't see on the board, or maybe it wasn't there at the time. I can't remember what he said, because the salesman was just beside himself that here we wanted this and it wasn't meant to be. And so he's feeling so bad, and we're sitting at the desk, and I reached over and I said, I patted the desk. I said, it is really okay. I prayed about this. This is not to be. And this helps me. I am settled just fine with this. He said, this has never happened before. And he's been there a very long time. And he still is beside himself on how this happened. And I said, it's all God, and I thought, well, maybe it was to witness to him. I'm not sure.
Plant the seed.
Yeah. But it really was. And then he just sent another one to Trevor a couple days ago. And I'm like, nah, it's not right. So, yeah, so that was going to be my praise. But it just came into what we were talking about, that it's all in God's timing. And another thing, kind of switching gears, though, on how this plays in, I was thinking leading up to Mother's Day on, in the Bible, women are mentioned quite a few times. And some of them in the beginning, like who was the first group of people to come see Jesus at the tomb? It was women. And Deborah was a judge, and one of the more respected judges in the Old Testament.
And oh, go ahead, Hagar.
Yes. I mean, God still blessed her. He found her when, she was desperate and, she was sent away by Sarah. So she had Ishmael with her. And what is she going to do with him? And, what to do. And God met her where she was.
Right.
And women at the well, many times it's talked about that they go find the woman at the well, or it, ended up being the wife and she was at the well, or Ruth, who was a Moabite, not even an Israelite. And then she's in the lineage of Jesus, and Rahab, the prostitute. And, God used her, and God also saved her. And she's very important as well.
She's also in the lineage of Jesus.
Yes, in the lineage of Jesus, yes.
Yeah. It just, when you start talking about perspective, when you start looking at the Bible through a different lens, all of these women's rights, I mean, yes, there are times, and my brother-in-laws and brothers and that are going to be like, yeah, Tara, you're always about women live. That, not so much to the nth degree about that, but that, everybody matters. Well, if you look at what God destined for all of us and how he meant for his kingdom to be, and the people in there, yes, I truly believe the man is supposed to be the head of the household, and he should be the leader spiritually. Totally agree with all of that. But that doesn't mean that women are less than, and it doesn't mean they should be forgotten and stomped on, and that.
I do believe that Christianity is the only religion, and Jesus is the only, leader isn't the word I want to use, but that put women in equal play with men. And all the other religions really look down on women.
Yeah.
And especially at the time when Jesus walked this earth, the women were property. They had no value at all other than to produce children. I mean, that's all that they were for back then.
Right. So if we know who we are in Christ, our identity is a daughter of the King, and that is where he wants us to be, then we can know that we are where we're supposed to be, and we're not less than at all. We are daughters of the King, for sure.
So there is a text that I sent to you girls. Maybe one of you can look it up. It has the picture of a young girl straightening her crown.
Yes.
And so if one of you want to look that up, I'm sorry, but that picture just came to my mind when you were talking about that. I know it's in a group.
Yes, but I ended up sending it to
there you go.
There it is.
And you have glasses on and I don't. But this is so good. So it has a picture of a really young girl, and she's got a crown on her head. And
it says, "Sometimes on dark days, I think, nobody cares and nobody's coming. Then I remember who sends thoughts like that, and I straighten my crown."
I just love, that makes me want to cry.
Yes.
Talk about perspective again, people can say whatever they want about you. That's a thought going back to the airplane ride. I'm looking out the window the whole ride to California, and you see these mountains in just a perspective you can't get anywhere but from the air, and I'm like, how small am I? Well, my specific thought was we were flying over a really big town. Maybe it was San Diego. Anyway, and I'm like, you can barely see those houses. And one person in one of those houses might be having a bad day, feels like the world is against her, but there is somebody else on the other side of town, having a good day. And if God just knows how to connect us to what we need. And even though I am looking down from an airplane and they look like little pinpoints, or if you look at pictures of the earth, and you can't even see a town, they're just, we are so small, but yet we were so important that Jesus died on the cross for us.
Right.
And you can't even see us from
Yeah.
way up high. And I just think different perspective, like you were saying, flip the script,
Which reminds me, this was going to be part of my thankful. So maybe we're just intertwining our thankfulness in with our episode here instead of doing it at the end. But you still have to go, Trine. So
yeah, my wheels are turning. I have a lot to be thankful for.
how at the gala, the one guy who was a founding member and they honored him, and he was so humble, and he's just like, I'm just doing what God wanted me to do. Like anything they wanted him to do, like he found a way and just did it. And I truly did not get the impression that he did it just to do it and he was overloaded. I got the impression that he did it because God called him, and he said, basically like what you're saying, Trina, like, who am I? But God chose me to be on his team. I get to play on God's team.
Yeah.
Like that. That should move us. And I just see more and more and over the past several weeks how God is just showing me that he wants me to be on his team. How lucky am I?
And we're not going to sit the bench.
Yes.
We are important.
Yeah.
He's
because
going to
of
use
him.
us.
Yeah. So
it's
true.
all because of him.
And so you had just said something, and it reminded me of Mother Teresa saying that God does not call us to success. God calls us to obedience.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have to carry the weight of all of that, what the world expects out of us. We just have to be obedient to him, do the next right thing. And I'm stealing all of that from a podcast or an episode that I heard this week, but it resonated with me because sometimes when we're looking at it from the human perspective, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, undue pressure, and other people put pressure on us. But again, if you are looking downward from being way up high, like an airplane ride, like, who cares about that little stuff, But when we're living in it, like Dad used to say, you can't see the forest for the trees, you have to look at how God is viewing all of that, not from a human perspective. So is it going to look crazy if we do communal living? Maybe to some people, but if that is what God is calling us to do, who cares what they think,
The Amish do it. And they survive quite well.
Easier said than done, because we do have to, I think part of it is having to feel like I need to answer to people. And I don't know why I do that, but, if somebody says, well, why are you doing that? Or why do you believe that way? Or, in a derogatory way, then I feel like I have to give them, an answer that will appease them because I only like confrontation with certain people. So anyway,
people that have a certificate that says they cannot leave.
Yeah.
That's what I think for me. But I think as moms, that's like, I love what you just said, Trina, how just do the next right thing, one step at a time, persevere. I don't know the Bible verse, but it tells us to persevere. Keep watch. The prayer for last week was something about that. And I went to look it up and it must have deleted already. But yeah, just persevere and keep going. And God sees you, moms out there, or women in general. It doesn't matter. Maybe you're not a mom, and God sees you and you are important, and we just have to keep going. There is Trina, you sent us this Billy Graham video, and I'm going to try to put it out there
in the comments. You can do that.
Yeah. In two of the platforms that I am in. But anyway, it's wonderful. I don't remember how long it is.
I want to say it's like 40 minutes or something like that. But you can listen to it in segments.
Yeah, I don't think
it took me a whole lunch break to listen to it, and I wasn't quite done.
And he does repeat himself, so I almost stopped. But then he repeats himself in a different way, like he brings it out.
Another.
Yes, and he brings it out in a different way. So he's saying the same thing, yet he's not. But I just a screenshot.
Oh.
So I just want to encourage them. It says, you don't realize how strong you truly are until you become a mother. There's no room for giving up. Tears may fall, but for a brief moment, because the show must go on. You can cry, but not for long. No matter how you feel, you have to keep showing up and giving your best, because you are someone's whole world, their hero. Never forget you are an amazing mom and you are doing an incredible job.
That's beautiful.
So it just, I mean,
And the people that, you parent different for a 2-year-old than you do a 22-year-old.
Oh, definitely.
And the 2-year-old, I feel like you are giving the most physically of yourself at that age. They the naps never come when you need them, right? Like,
Amen.
It's exhausting with toddlers. So, and it's been a long time since I raised a toddler, but many of my grandchildren are toddlers. So I I applaud. Yes, then I remember. But 22-year-olds, I would say, are more mentally exhausting. I'm just sharing my own experiences. And so we aren't told by that 2-year-old, Mom, you're my world. I
Yeah.
need you. And sometimes we're not told by the 22-year-old, and maybe we'll never get told by our children, but God knows.
Right.
And we're just supposed to please God.
That's right.
Not
Right.
the 2-year-old, not the 22-year-old.
Right.
God, and he will.
And I have said that to people that bucked me on some of my parenting, like, why don't you let your kids watch this show? Or this is just pretend, it's not real, as far as either shows or books or whatever. And I said, I'm not going to answer to anybody but God when this is all said and done.
Right.
And did I screw up? Absolutely, multiple times. But just keep trying to do that next right thing, but that was always my thing when people would complain about the way I parented. Hey, I have to answer to God, and I would much rather you be disappointed in me than God be disappointed. Right. But I'm still living that out. I mean, it's never ending. I'm 49 and I need to keep practicing saying that, because in a couple of months I won't be able to. And so I'm 49, I'm 49, I'm 49. But anyway, that's...
You can say you're 49 forever. It's your memory.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So as a mother, you are not replaceable. Let that sink in. As a mother, you are not replaceable. And even if you're not a mom, your mother is not replaceable.
Right.
And maybe some of our listeners have lost their mom, and maybe it was a good relationship and maybe it wasn't, but you are still important to other women around you. Even if they're not your daughter, they're not your sister, they're not your mom, you are a woman living out your faith to other people. And what are they looking at?
And how many women do we have in our lives that we are trying to mentor or build up? And the Bible does say that the older women are supposed to teach the younger women. So if you're an older woman, seek out that younger woman. If you're a younger woman, seek out someone that has wisdom. Don't go to TikTok and look at somebody else who is having the same issues you are.
Yeah.
Go above and beyond and seek wisdom.
Right.
Not... Yeah.
Right. The highlight reel that TikTok.
Right.
I think of the one episode on Run to the Hard where I think it was the lady that's had over 100 surgeries, and they chose not to have children because it's hereditary and she doesn't want to pass it down, but she's working with the youth.
Yeah.
And young women, maybe not the youth, but the young women.
Yes.
And
coffee. And
yeah.
She was saying that her mom feels so bad.
Yes.
That,
but she didn't know.
She didn't, and her mom has this, but who would have known in technology and medicine? Because her mom so much more now.
Her mom was in her 50s when she found out. Actually, after the daughter found out, then they did some testing and like, oh, this is why. So as a mother, you are not replaceable. Let that sink in. Let's just say as a woman, you are not replaceable, but I mean, has a different connotation for mother. So when you're thinking you're not enough, you're actually everything.
Wow. Yeah. And it's so hard. I remember those days of, I'm so tired, and they're all complaining and fighting and potty training, and, they got hurt by somebody at school and it just broke your heart. And, just so many things feel so heavy, but you're right. It's different parenting now, and it just takes on a a totally different view, perspective, but you never let that go on your calling to be a mom or a woman.
Yeah.
So who's going to be your Timothy or
Barnabas?
Yeah.
Speaking of Run to the Heart, the latest episode is episode 30, and it's Curtis Christopher talking to, I think, the college that
Yes, I
went
listened to that.
Yeah.
So some of these episodes are hard to hear. But if you want to, give it a chance, start with this episode 30. I thought it was phenomenal. His take on Joseph, which he's done it before, but a different way. But now he's taking it, and it's hope for the abandoned, betrayed, and forgotten.
Yes.
Like, who
That
can't
was really
resonate with
good.
that?
Right.
And it's like
feel that
30
way as a woman. You feel that way as a mother.
Yeah.
What is it again? Betrayed.
Forgotten and abandoned.
Yes. Yes.
And I think it's only
it was
38 minutes, I want to
Yes.
say. So a short one. So yeah, and again, we had forgotten to pray on our last episode. We said we wanted to pray for them. All I know is it was sudden the Saturday before Easter, but they were all in church Easter Sunday, and they know where their hope is.
Right.
And our hope is in Jesus. Their hope is in Jesus. But yeah, just continue to pray for them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been great. We did kind of prepare a little bit for this episode. I think we were sugared up on that last episode. I mean, we laughed a lot.
Hey, it's real life.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, when we get together with conversations with our girlfriends or the three of us go do something, we don't prepare for that conversation. It's just, let's talk about what's on our mind. So,
And kind of like a preacher who gets up and, he could have prepared all week, but then God just takes it in different directions. And like, don't know where that came from.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a little cold in the hall today, but I've gotten goosebumps just on how God has worked with things that each of you have brought up that I'm like, yes, that goes. And we didn't even like, God's just threading this together. How can you not believe in God? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I have a good story, though, to share. And this is, again, how God threads it together, because I don't even remember how I came across this good story, but I remembered it because it's the same city where we bought our camper at.
Oh.
And that stayed up north. And so I remembered it then, but there was this bookstore in Chelsea, stayed up north, and they were moving from one place to another place in that same town. 300 people volunteered. They made a human line from that old bookstore to the new bookstore, and they moved all those books. That is what we're supposed to do, people. We're supposed to help people.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. I was like, oh,
That is cool.
that was great.
What's your thankful, Trina?
My thankful is the highlight of our trip was Eli has a friend that is also a machine gunner. And while we were staying with them, the friend came over and he's like, so is anybody going to church with me on Sunday? And I jumped up. I think I literally jumped up out of my
At least you didn't
position on the
jump into this.
Yeah. And I'm like, what time? Where at? Blah, 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 blah. And because I had asked if we would be able to go to church while we were there. And so this young man, he's always lived in California. You know what? I'm not going to give all the details. Just jump to the chase. Jared and I, Eli and Ava, and two other couples, and this young man all went to church on Sunday. Phenomenal message. Very good. And all the kids liked the church. In fact, they even walked around the campus afterwards. And because Jared and I have been praying that Eli and Ava would find a church home. And so they went, and today, in fact, I'm going to call them when I get home and see how their first day of serving went, because this church closed their doors this weekend to go serve their community. And they had over 8,000 people sign up to go fix homes, do landscaping, whatever. And I love what the pastor said. He said, don't come here next Sunday because the church doors will be closed because we are doing church in the community. And I thought, isn't that the picture of what Jesus said?
Yes.
Did Jesus ever say, meet me here on Sunday morning and live the way you want to live the rest of the week? No. I mean, his church traveled,
Yeah.
and so they were meeting the needs of the people in their community, and Eli and Ava and these two other couples signed up to serve.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, wow, not only did we go to church, you guys are like, so my prayer was that they would get connected with people in that church, in their community to set down some roots because they're going to be there for a while. So
Yeah.
Love it.
I was very thankful for Landon who put the word out there. Hey, you want to come to church with me? So
yeah, that's awesome. You'll have to give us an update.
I will.
Episode. As I was giving these statements out over the last several episodes, I'll do that again. I wrote myself a note to remember. Speak this over your week, and I'll recap what the previous one said. I will remember that the ordinary and mundane are the exact places God brings his supernatural strength and power. I will ask God to help me be a person of joy in every space, especially when I'm not feeling it. He lifts my eyes above my emotions. That one gets me. I need to write that on a sticky note and put it on my computer. I will pray for a softened heart when I experience moments of bitterness, frustration, or impatience.
I wish you had read that to me this morning.
Yeah.
It gets you.
So does that, because I'm thinking over when I listened to the podcast last Monday when it came out and was not in a very
good state of mind.
Yeah, let's just say that.
Your love goggles.
My love goggles were missing. Yes, very much so. And okay, never mind. I thought of something along, like we're supposed to love, and then there was something else, and I'm like, but those are two opposite things for me. And now I can't think of what the second one was. It was, oh, that's it. Yes. That's it. I don't like to be told what to
like twins.
I don't like to be told what to do. And I have a hard time loving. And but yet God says, come join my team. And he's like, no, I don't want you sitting the bench. I'm going to show you how to do this. So and then I'm like, okay, so I'm supposed to pray like a softened heart for me, because I kind of was praying for a softened heart for the other person at the time. But then I'm like, okay, God checked me. I think you're supposed to pray for a softened heart for yourself. Actually, he didn't say I think. He knows. Okay, carry on this week's.
Okay. The new one. I will treasure quality conversation with others, speaking life into them and making space to hear their heart. Trina, I feel like you do that well.
Yes.
I don't know why you're pointing at me.
Yeah, I just pointed at her and then you say it. Yeah. You do. You speak life.
Oh.
Yeah. And that is so
That's
fitting.
That's a song as well.
That is fitting for what we were talking about today.
Yeah.
It's how can people think there's no God?
I think it's also funny how we view ourselves differently than other people view us.
Definitely.
And how the lies that we listen to from the enemy.
Yeah.
That must hurt God's heart.
Oh, yes. Tim has always told me I'm high maintenance. I thought of that this morning, and I don't know why. I'm just like, he's always saying, I could have never married that twin. She's too high maintenance. I don't think so. So see, people think of us differently than
he was even telling Sandy Hatfield this morning. She's like, "You're black licorice," and he's like, "Yeah. Did you not hear the reason why?" Like, I'm like, Tim, just like why? And he's like, "Yeah, I know that Tara and Teresa are twins, but I could never." He was just saying that to Sandy this morning. That's so funny.
That must have been why I
telepathy.
Was thinking it.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and pray, and we might continue on not today to do it, but continue this thought pattern on for our next episode, because I feel like we didn't get everything said that we had thought about saying for this. So, Lord, we thank you for loving us. Thank you for sending your son to die on the cross for Teresa, Trina, and Tara, and our friends and everyone in the world. Thank you that you love us enough that you care about what we're doing each and every day, and you care enough to listen to us and to give us the desires of our heart. Lord, we pray for Michael Christopher's children today and in the days ahead, the years ahead, actually, for losing both biological parents at such young ages. And we don't understand, but your way is higher than ours, and we cannot lean on our own understanding. We need to give it to you. And so we just pray that you'll be with Curtis and the children and the family as they try to navigate what is next, and pray for their hearts. And Lord, I pray for our listeners. I thank you that they come back every week to hear us talk about this and that. And I don't understand, but we just want to be obedient to you and praise you. And thank you for all the moms that are out there and the daughters, Lord, and that we can all adjust our crown because we are in you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.